Okay, so it's now actually the next day, and I've got this side cut, and what I do is I'm just exposing enough. I'm removing enough just to expose this corner here where you see the pencil. So, right. Now I'm going to do this one. Now remember, always, you start with this inside line going across the grain. You see? So the grain is running this way, right? The winter grain. Always start right here on this inside line. Always in this place. Every single time, please. So right, again, just tracing. Just slowly doing it. It doesn't, you're at an absolute zero hurry. And because there's a lot of winter grain here, it's going to take a lot of passes with the knife, you see? Well, that's okay. You have plenty of time. And then, again, soap is your friend. So you get some soap in there. And now the knife is just going to, see how it's sliding much smoother, right? And again, very important, you're going past this corner right here, because this is what you want to preserve from chipping off. And it can really chip. It's easy to happen. So again, you're going beyond that point that you want to preserve all the way into this purfling line. You see what I mean? Dun, dun, dun. Nice and slow. No hurry. Again, you can see how it's not completely flat against the plate. So, same thing. Just put a piece of paper under it. Now it's not moving. Okay, so now I do the other line. Again, just tracing right along the pencil line. First, you're demarcating. You're not really cutting with a lot of pressure. And right, as I explained in the previous video, etc. Nice and slow. Now you see the knife wants to go in there, and pretty soon you're gonna see, oops, slow down. You're gonna see the wood start to move. You know, the part that you're gonna remove, that you want to remove, will start to move and dance. Right? That's the winter grain. See it moving? Right. You see, right. So, and again, your goal is to preserve this corner right here so it does not pop off. And there should be no danger of that because you're cutting past that point. You're not cutting right here, you're cutting all the way into that. All right, so this is like almost ready to fly. You can just pop it like that, bam. Very careful this part. Right? So now, all your, again, cutting on the inside first. And your knife is beyond that point. There you go, tracing it. And on this, I don't really want to go all the way down like I did on the cross grain. I just want to remove enough to glue that point that I want to preserve and save, the danger part. And believe me, in your career, you're going to lose that point, and you can put something in there. So again, I'm just trying to get, I'm not going all the way, I'm playing it really safe. Right? So now, and that looks pretty. That looks really cool, actually. I'm pretty happy with that. So now, before I go deeper, I want to get my glue. Right? This glue is really thick, right? And I'm gonna take a tiny, tiny, tiny brush. Hold on, this is a crappy position for the glue. I'm taking this really tiny brush. I mean, that is crazy thick. That's too thick, actually. So I add a little bit of, just a touch of hot water from the pan. And I could actually use a tinier, finer brush, but so then I'm putting glue here, and I'm just sort of sliding, since it's a big brush, I'm sliding the glue on that point. Careful not to get any glue into the purfling groove. And I just go ahead and slap on a nice thick dab of it, right? So then I'm going to do that for all my other corners as well. You know, I've got this is partially cut. It's not going in all the way, it's just... So glue that little point that you want to preserve. Same over here. Okay. Now I'm going to let that glue dry and then come in and go deeper and get the exact depth that I want. Okay, so the cello plate is sitting back there out of the way because it's actually very fragile. I've cleaned out all the corners, so we're ready to inlay the purfling. These are my purflings, and I'm going to show you a trick to help. What I do is take some chalk, and this is a pretty unelegant piece of chalk, but you want this really soft chalk, you know. Unfortunately, they started making chalk dust-free. That's not cool. But anyway, you're taking your purfling, right? And you're deciding which is the top. It doesn't really matter because it's the same. You're basically taking your chalk and you're marking what will be the top of the purfling, right? So I'll just take it, mark it all the way along. All the way along, right? And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take it, keeping in mind this is the top always. And I'm gonna take my knife and sort of angle it this way and do this. So what I'm doing is I'm shaving off the very bottom because the purfling itself is like square, right? So what I'm doing is I'm shaving off on the bottom in just a very, very small amount. So what it does is in the end, it makes a kind of like V shape, you know? What you want is like this. So this is the top up here, and this is the bottom part that I'm scraping. You're just removing on both sides a tiny little bit to make the purfling smaller at the bottom, this kind of V shape, right? So that's why I have the chalk. So I always know that's my top, right? So then you just go along and you do it. I'm holding it carefully, and you're angling your knife to where you do not want to take thickness off the top. You're just scraping kind of the bottom like this, right? Moving it along in your hands and going along the line. And being careful. Careful! I've never really cut myself doing this before, even though this knife is hella sharp. Sliding it along, going all the way down, etc., etc., etc. And what this does is it allows the purfling to kind of like sit really nicely in the groove that you've cut, you know? So especially if you're cutting by hand and not routing. And I will probably do a video like with a violin because yeah, again, like some people may give me crap for using the router, and you know what I say? Like, pff, tough titty, you know, like really, if an electric tool allows you to make more instruments, you know what I mean? Because I'm old. I'm like really old. I'm not going to tell you how old I am. You can guess if you like, and leave a comment, and I'll tell you, no, you're wrong. Because I actually look much younger than I really am, and I think that's due to genetics and just generally being a happy person. Does that make sense? Don't get me wrong. In winter in Galicia, melancholia is a bitch that comes, you know. But anyway, so if you can use an electric tool that allows you to make more instruments in your lifetime, you're going to have more experiences, and you're going to have a better sense of intuition. I have lost count of how many I've made. I've made over 100 violas, and cellos, I don't know. It's not as many, obviously. But the point is, like, the more bass bars that you do, the more tops that you graduate, the more instruments that you make, the better, the more you're going to develop your intuition, you know? So, okay, so I finished. Now, the chalk is on the top. Now I flip it, right? And I do the other side because I want this V shape, you know? And again, be really careful. You're just taking away the kind of focus. You're just taking away the very bottom of I don't know if you can see. Take my word for it. Actually, yeah, while the iron's getting hot, I noticed that, so, I mean, obviously before you start gluing, you want to check that your purfling is fitting in, right? So I just made the V, you know, on all of these, and you may have spots where it fits better, or you know, where it's not really going in. You want it to go all the way in there. So one trick that I do is I take sandpaper, like this is 120, so it's pretty rough, and then fold it once, and you'll find that, like, on these cross areas, the machine will, you know, cut differently. So this is a way to just kind of widen your channel very quickly to actually fit the purfling. So I've folded it once. Now that that's kind of broken in, I'll fold it twice, so I have obviously a double thick, and I'll come into the, and usually it's across the grain. The machine will, the router will kind of, it tends to be more narrow, you know. So again, my bit was 1.5, and I believe this purfling is 1.8. You know, the actual width of the purfling, and so it's safe for me to do this and just kind of widen the channel, and then you can just kind of generally check it. So right, that's fitting in all the way now. You can see it's not sticking out. So that's another tip. Check the iron if it's hot. Yeah, it's hot enough. Purfling can purfling doesn't need a whole heck of a lot of heat. So let's bend, right? Well, I have some water here. Cheers. And I just like put my fingers in and just kind of wet. I don't douse the purfling end, but I just kind of like get it kind of wet, right? And then I start bending and getting the whole thing hot. And remember, your chalk is telling you where the top is. You don't want to bend it this way, right? Right? So you get the whole piece of purfling nice and warm, and you can actually use the smaller part of the iron to just guide you. All right, so that's my corner, and you make a nice, like you're bending more than the actual size of the corner, and I'll show you why in a minute. So now I look at my C-bout. I know what a C-bout looks like, right? Because I made some ribs. And I take my time and make a kind of general C-bout shape, right? So now I hold up the purfling to the C-bout, and I just kind of push it in like this. All right? So obviously this needs to be bent more down here because it's not really matching the curve, but that's okay. Right now, I just want to cut it like around here, like outside, right? And you can, so you always make extra. Right, so now this piece is easier to work with, right? So you can see this corner, it's actually sitting in there really well. So what I'll go ahead and do is put on my magnifying glasses, and I make a line, right? Okay, so this is not easy. What you want to do is take your knife, and you don't want to cut all the way because you can damage your corner, but you're just marking the purfling itself and lining it up like this. You're looking at where you want to cut it, and you want to just make a line, right? And then take it here on a very flat surface and go ahead and cut it all the way. Now you can hold it here and see how it fits, right? So that looks, just by chance, pretty damn good. And what you want is the black line at the bottom to match that corner. I mean, that looks really good to me. So what I do now is take a pencil, because I like that, and I'm gonna mark here, like this. So that marks the position, right? You always are gonna work from there. You know the pencil is going across the purfling and the wood. It just gives you a kind of reference. So now I take it out, and tighten up this bottom. Again, remembering where is the top. Get the whole thing hot. And this is where it needs to be accurate because, right, so I got my pencil lines. I match it up here. More or less. Right? And there's a couple ways to do this. You could also just take a pencil and like mark where you want to cut. And what you want to do, sorry, I wasn't showing you. I put the purfling in, match it to the lines I just made, and now I'm marking this angle with the pencil where I want to cut. Or if you're a badass, you can just go ahead and cut it. But you want to cut longer than you actually want, because what happens is you say, oh, I'm going to cut that, and it's not perfect, it's not matching up, and then you're screwed. So what you do is you cut way longer than you want, or outside. That way you can make adjustments if it doesn't look good, and you can always go smaller, but you can't, you know. So that's about what I want. Let's see what that looks like. So I got my pencil lines here, match it up again, and that's too long, which is good. So now I look at, hold on a second. You can see it's too long and it won't fit in. So now comes the moment of truth, when keeping it flat, and again, you can mark with chalk again. What's the top? Don't forget. Now, just because I've done this about 1,000 times, with the angle of the knife, not like this or not like this, not curved. I want to cut perfectly down, because if you curve the knife, then you know you want a nice, confident, clean cut. And let's see what this looks like. Just shave off a tiny bit and then see how that fits, right? So, bam, bam. Okay, so that's the C-bout. So now, don't forget, very important, mark with chalk again, because usually when you're bending, the chalk comes off. And same thing here. Wham, wham, wham. You can do 100 pencil lines, it doesn't matter. It's just when you're gluing, you want to you want that reference of where it goes, because it gets kind of crazy. So now this can be a top bout. So now this is much easier. Same thing, get it wet. Sorry about the camera movement. And again, I'm heating the whole piece of purfling before I bend it, just like when you bend ribs. Get it nice and hot, and then you make the shape of a corner that's like longer than you want, right? And the reason you do it longer than you want is now, you know what? I just screwed up. Okay, I bent it the wrong way. So that will be, well actually, let's see if it fits here. Right? So the reason I did it this curve longer than the actual corner is that now I can move it this way or this way and find the perfect spot where it aligns. So let's see if this is long enough. And it only has to go to the center. Okay, so it is. Because down here is going to be a saddle, you know? This will be a piece of ebony. So that's gonna work. Okay, so again, where's the top? Do I know where the top is? I mean, that's the top. So now, I've got this here, and I'm gonna, you don't have to do 2 cuts, you only have to do 1 cut. So you can do everything you want. You can just, I'm just gonna go ahead and hot dog it and cut it like that. Hold on a second. Okay, let's try that. So they make a, yeah, that's really terrible. It's not gonna work. But, like I say, let's see how much space I have. I still have space, I think. So that's the thing, why you cut it out. Yeah, I got plenty of space because the saddle's going to be here. So I have this much to cut off on here so I can keep trying, right? So let's just go a little bit slower. I need my tweezers. Yeah, another thing to remember is don't push it too far in, or it's going to be a pain in the butt to get out. So now, remove this. Like that. Yeah. Okay. It's actually pretty damn good. I'm gonna do one more, get a little bit longer. So, also I cut and there's a little bit of an angle here. Just slow the hell down, you know? Slow down, take a breath. So I did it a little bit longer and now it's gonna push. There you go. Right. So let that sit in, and again, mark with chalk. Mark with chalk, mark with pencil, like that, these lines across. So now I'll do the other C-bout, right? So I have this many more strips. So basically one strip will do another C and another this. And then, yeah, I'll have one extra, so that's fine. Like I say, always make extras. So I'll go ahead and do the other C-bouts, and the other ones, it's basically the same technique. And then we'll cut and edit together with the moviola. Okay, so what I have done is I've bent all my purfling strips, and I've made sure that they're fitting in the grooves perfectly. That's another advantage to routing, is that you know that this is going to be 1.5 everywhere. You know that. So I had to come in and use the sandpaper trick to widen just a little bit in spaces. But now we should be good to go. So first thing to remember is once again to mark your pieces with chalk wood, right? I mean, you're going to be able to see where you cut away the V, that's the bottom. But sometimes in the heat of gluing, in the fog of gluing, you can even get confused which strip is which. You know, you really got to pay attention. So I got all that marked, and I have pencil lines. Here I don't have a pencil line, see? So bam, bam, bam. And that's another way to know that strip goes here, because you have that exact pencil line is telling you that. You know, you're matching them up where they fit. So now you pull everything out and put it this to this side, this one to this side, right? My center here. Pull out this center and just set it here. Same thing. This one is sitting off camera. And remove, another good rule about gluing, you don't need any tools here anymore. You only need the tools that you're using. So there are two ways to do this. I'm using synthetic because it's winter, and this is basically synthetic hide. And the other way is to use hot glue and a syringe, but I find that what happens is that it starts to, this just gives you more time. And I can tell you, I've been making instruments for over 30 years, and it takes a little bit longer to get brittle, but it becomes just as brittle as hot glue, and I don't care what you say. Because I've opened an instrument that I've done. What's going on here? Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the glue in the channel, and I'm using quite a lot, and squeezing the bottle so that the glue goes like deep in the channel and not just sitting on the top of it. You know what I mean? Wow, this is acting really weird. Hold on. Okay, I think it's because it's brand new. So I'm watching the glue sort of go in. It's going inside the purfling. So now I take my sieve out and I find my pencil lines that I made. And I just set it in with my fingers first before I push it all the way in. I make sure everything is nice and kosher. And then I use this tool, which is like, some makers use a hammer. I prefer this. I have two tools actually. This is like just a flat one that pushes it in. So you see it just goes in there really nice. And there is no gap, I swear to you. It's just, right? First with the flat one, and then I come in with the pointed one and just sink it right in. And the reason you want, there it's actually, there you go. It's going in there nice. And the glue sort of lubricates it, you know. And the advantage to synthetic is you have time, right? So now I'll go ahead and take a wet rag and just clean that up a little bit. That's damp but not dripping wet, because you don't want water in your channel. So that looks good, right? So now I do my other C-bout. Remember, do your C-bouts first. All right, and those have to be perfect. If you screw this up, you're screwed. This is like a brand new bottle. It's behaving a little weird because it doesn't have a lot of air in it. But again, I'm squeezing and making sure that the glue goes inside. It's not just sitting on top of the channel. It's like going in there. It's behaving really weird. There's just no air in the bottle. It'll be better for the next instrument. So where's my C? There's my chalk. That's important too. You don't want to, you know, matching it to the pencil line before you push it in. Because now I have a little time. I got plenty of time. So that's that. Looking at my lines. Right, so if it's not right, I can still push it out. That looks good. Boom. And it just sucks right in there. It just goes in there. So again, this one, you can also do this last, because with this glue, you have like half an hour. So boom. Now you can see it like, it's sitting in there like perfectly. And you really want that, because if your purfling is loose, it's quite possible that you will get a rattle. Imagine you're playing, and then, I've never had that happen. Thanks Santa Claus and Buddha and everyone else and baby Jesus. So I'm just gonna head and roll on this whole top. Man, this bottle is acting really, it just, there we go. You know, so you imagine it if it's winter, and it's cold, you actually have to put the bottle like in the pot of water, but with hot glue, it starts setting really fast. All right, this is not cool. But see, I got time. It's like this bot is it's just like full, so there's no air.
There we go. Yeah, you want to make sure there's glue everywhere in this channel. And it's a little bit sloppy and messy, but okay.
Okay, so now you're matching up and you're making your perfect bee sting because you've already, and you just shove it in there nice and tight. I'm just pushing it into that bee sting so they fit it and they're sucking up to each other. Suck up to your neighbor. And this part, hold on a second. Hold on, the camera is. This part, I'm not pushing it all the way yet. I'll show you why. So I'm just gonna leave that and leave this out. This is like hanging out right now before I do the same thing here. Again, it pushes this V. They both come together really nice into a nice pretty bee sting is what they call it. So here there's not enough glue. How did that happen? So again, with synthetic, you have time. Now what you do not want to use synthetic for is anything that has tension on it. You don't want to use it for a bass bar, you don't want to use it for setting a neck, anything like that. But for purfling, it's totally fine, right? So now I take my knife. Again, plenty of time with synthetic, right? Isn't that cool? And after, actually, it gets just as brittle. People say that that it's not as brittle as hot glue, and I'm sorry, that's not true. It takes more time, but okay. So now I come in here, push that in, and then I'm just kind of eyeballing it. I cut right there, and then that is invisible. You can't see the joint at all. So I did a good job there. Again, and then go in and push it with the flat one first. And then I take my wedge, which is just a clothespin, half of a clothespin, and you push those corners together. You push the purfling down so it just sits in the. And I'm telling you, this fits so well. There's zero chance of it rattling. And that usually happens like, 50 years later. This is it. I promise you, this purfling is sucked nicely in the channel and it fits perfectly. I mean, it's hard to push in, and that's good. So now same thing here. Use my flat one and it just sucks right in there. And that looks sweet. Again, push the corners so that goes in. Okay, so same thing with the lower bouts.
Pretty much. Clean up my hands. It's kind of sticky. You want to keep a pot of warm water just to. And I got this nasty apron. Can you see? It's like filthy. So come on, this bottle is. There we go. I use a lot. It's better to have too much than too little. Yeah, your first time doing purfling, you might want to practice on some scraps because if you are going to use hot glue, it can be frustrating, and you only have one chance with this.
With synthetic, you have more chance, you have more time, and it's also horse friendly. No horse had to die for this particular plate. Now when I set the neck, you absolutely must use hot. Hold on, there's some dust in there. If you're setting a neck, which we're going to get to pretty soon, I'm going to do a modern viola, and but if you're setting a neck, you absolutely use hot glue, because I mean, I know that the Chicago School of Violin Making in America, I read online that they used synthetic even for their necks. But that makes me a little bit nervous. So again, I'm pushing in the beast, pushing it all the way. The pencil lines don't really matter here. You just want those 2 points to connect really well, and hopefully the black lines and the this is actually pear. The center, I don't know if you can see, I'll show you in a minute. So same thing here, I don't push that in all the way, because I want to cut it right in the center of the saddle. The saddle's going to sit here, so I'll cut it right around the center joint. And this part does not have to be perfect. You could even leave it empty there, because you're going to put a saddle in there, an ebony or ivory, or live together in perfect harmony side by side. Oh, here's a good thing. You see how my corner's hanging over? Don't do that. You want it like this, because you're putting a lot of pressure. So push it together.
Just pushing with my fingers. Okay. Woohoo! Where's my tool? There it is. So the flat one, it just kind of sucks it in. And then, right, so I'm pushing that bee sting together nicely. And then just running it along the whole length, and it sucks right in that channel. And remember, this one was a little short. It actually just fits perfectly.
And that's it. Woohoo! So now, tomorrow is like really fun. Tomorrow morning is really fun because you want to let this dry overnight, especially with synthetic. So now I just clean up a little bit. And that just looks cool. It's such a freaky top. You see these like the grain is like curved and doing weird stuff. It's just cool looking, yeah. And the pear is the center is actually like brown. Where is the camera? See, I think you have stained maple and pear. Again, I ordered my purflings from Kimona Tools. You can make your own purfling, but badasses like Jose Catarilla, the great Galician luthier, he makes his own. Clean up. But that's it. So tomorrow is really fun because you don't do it now, but I come in with like a curved gouge, and you can see the results, whether or not the bee sting is perfect or not. So yeah, so tomorrow morning is going to be really fun. That's it. Love.